Peter Friestedt is one of Sweden's premier musicians and guitarists. Having studied music at several conservatories in Sweden, Peter eventually landed in Los Angeles to study at the Los Angeles Music Academy. There, he studied under Frank Gambale and his guitar staff. But sometimes education will only get you so far. Peter wanted his music in the hands and ears of Bill Champlin. So he borrowed a friend's car, drove to Bill's house, and delivered a cassette tape that contained some of his music. That was the start of Peter's LA project, his first album project that was eventually distributed all over Europe and garnered the attention of his peers and fans worldwide. It also catapulted Peter to various projects over the past 2 decades, his latest being the recently released CWF album that features Champlin and Toto vocalist Joseph Williams. Inside MusiCast is pleased to welcome both Peter Friestedt and Bill Champlin. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today.
Hello.
It's great to have you on, and I know Bill's been with us a couple of times before, but Peter, this is your first time, and you guys, you're on the heels of a very successful 2012 Scandinavian tour, and just a killer live concert DVD. So, and you're at it again with a wonderful new second release, and I could just say you're on a roll. Things are sounding great on your end.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I just want to say that I'm very honored to be on the show for the first time here, and the success with the DVD and the new record is amazing. It's just happening.
Yeah. Well, obviously the chemistry between you, Peter, Bill, and Joseph is obviously working out fine. And, there's a lot, as you know, there's a lot of buzz in the air about this new project, the second project. And but I'd like to ask you, let's start talking about the recording a little bit. What approaches have you kept? And what have you changed since you last worked on the first project? What can you tell us as you approach this new project? What things kept and what things you revived?
Well, this record was way different than the last one. Since this is a studio album and the DVD was a live DVD, so that was much more like going in and mixing a concert, and went by pretty fast, While this one, I think we started this one early January 2012 or something like that, and it's been a process making this a puzzle, putting this record together, and I think we recorded the vocals on my demos and on Bill's demos very early on, and then I took all of the material to Sweden and kept tweaking it for a while there, and adding drums and stuff like that, real drums and other guys.
Peter, you got to mention that you got some really great Swedish musicians on the rhythm section and a lot of the parts, horns like that. So you got some great guys on there. They all play great.
Yeah, I should mention Per Lindvall. He's like the groove guy on the drummer on the record. He's amazing. Played with ABBA when he was 17, and he's been on everything in Sweden, so he's fantastic. And there are some horn players that even played live with me and Bill last time we did Fasching, in Sweden. And there are some other guys, like Ingmar Åberg did a lot of production work with me that was really awesome. So it's been a lot of collaborations that's been working out very well.
We're going to we'll actually talk about those guys in just a little bit as we go deeper into the chat. But tell us also about you did get to work a little bit with Steve Porcaro and Randy Goodrum on this album too. You guys go way back, and Bill, you guys know these guys like brothers, and how did that connection come together? And you knew each other, so how did you ask them to get involved?
I'm going to take a little bit of this. With Randy, Randy had written some different things with Peter on former projects. What was the one? What was the tune I sang at Fasching that you guys wrote together?
Aria?
No, not Aria, but the.
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter and Randy have been writing together for a long time. What was really funny is that I was over in Sweden for something else, and I was running into Peter singing some demos, I think on Aria and some other things. And, when we were just like testing out the songs, and he said, let's go to lunch. So I went to lunch, and there was Randy. At the time, I was living in Nashville, about 4 miles from Randy's house. So Randy and I put together a writing date for 4 miles away in Nashville, but we put together the date in Stockholm, Sweden to go write, and we actually came up with Evermore, which is just a beautiful song.
It is gorgeous.
Randy, I mean, I brought him the chorus, then we got into the verses, got deep into the progression and using really nice substitutions. He's such a great musician. I'd never worked with Randy before, and I was just absolutely knocked. I was going, I see why Peter writes with you whenever he can. I mean, he's Randy Goodrum is as talented and as artistic as anybody I've ever worked with. He's a bad boy all the way. Okay, Peter, I'll shut up.
Well, I totally agree with all that you said there. I would say that Randy has some of the most fantastic way to put words together in a lyric. So when I had a song like Area, I just wanted Randy to write the lyric for that one, and it seems like I made the right choice there, choosing him for the lyric, and I would say that between working with Joseph and Bill and having Randy as a lyricist there, it's been a fantastic collaboration all in all, I would say.
Yeah, Randy's been on our show before, and I tell you, he just goes so deep. Everything that he does turns to gold. It does. And you know what we really love about this new project is it's the blending of and the transfers of the lead vocals of yours, Bill, and Joseph's. They really come out beautiful. You guys are so good at either this your vocals could stand alone, obviously, on your own gigs, but you unselfishly share the tracks, and there's so much of that become of this collaboration. So my question is this, Bill, how did you feel your way through who sings what? And maybe you can talk to us about how you shared the actual vocals, which are sometimes doubled within a song.
Well, Joe and I have done thousands of dates together. I'm not saying thousands. It just seems like it. Just one date, like 1,000 dates. But, we did this years ago. We did an a cappella album with, we had Jason Sheff and Bobby Kimball on this record. I think it was... what did we call ourselves? I can't even remember what it was. West Coast All Stars.
Right.
It was a Japanese release, and it was really well received in Japan. And what we realized, I realized that there were guys that just say, "Here's your notes, sing it," and then there's Joseph and there's me, and the two of us are. Joe is so good at arranging; he's got such a great arrangement sense, and I think I'm kind of in the same ball game. I lean a little more towards the R&B and jazz, and he leans a little more toward the real straight ahead, full like Beach Boys. I mean, he really understands what that's about and how to put it in place. And we ended up having a total ball working on the a cappella album. That's why when we did this album together, I just said to Peter, I says, "Let me and Joe do one of these." And we came up and I said, "Let me find the right song to do it." And I listened to Will had a tune right after 9/11 that he wanted me to write with him, which I did, and it was called Rivers of Fear. And he did it with a couple of acoustic guitars, just stacked them himself. He's also a great guitarist, and he just did it as a regular song. And then I looked at it and said, "Man, this might be one we could get away with. Of just update it, bring it up to snuffs, and pull one of those."
Sure.
The drums on that track are basically Joe pretty much doing the drums with his mouth, and,
Okay.
hitting himself with his fist in the chest to get the bass drum to have some, low stuff. Hi-hat, that's kind of sounds for snare drums. There might be some snaps. It's the only thing that wasn't vocal on the whole song. So Joe and I we've had no problem passing the ball back and forth in terms of arrangements. So all we had to do is the same thing with leads.
That's neat.
And Peter had a good. He said, "I hear this one for Bill. I hear this one for Joe." And he's, and occasionally I'd say, "Well, you're wrong." Oh, okay.
And then I took it home and changed everything in Sweden anyway. So
exactly. Peter is the producer, and the thing about Peter that really always knocks me out is, it was just kind of a fluke that I ran into him in the first place. He called me and says, "Hey, you want to write a song?" I said, "Sure, come on over." So he brings me a track. I write the song. He says, "Well, we'll cut the vocal next week at such and such a studio." I walk in and there's the band, and the band's like Jimmy Haslip and Russ Ferrante and Jeff Richmond and I always forget the drummer's name, but he's really great. And there was an ISO booth with a mic in it. He says, "Well, sing it." And I was going, "With the band?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Wow, that's novel." And it was really kind of, wow, that's what hey, Frank Sinatra, hey, you. And it was like it was like such a gas, and that kind of really opened the door. I said, "Man, I'm going to work with this guy anytime I can." So and his records always sound fat and big and well mixed and really defined, and it really makes a difference.
Well, you brought up a second ago that little comment about you'd sing something and Joseph might say, "Hey, you're wrong," and I was thinking about the whole chemistry and the background of where you guys come from. Joseph, having kind of his main gig being with Toto, and Bill, of course, your variety of experiences, with Chicago and Airplay, Sons of Champlin, and so many others. And, of course, Peter has such a presence in Scandinavia and all of his own projects. And I just wondered, when you guys get together to do this, are you always sort of on the same page? Are there ever any discrepancies, within what you're writing and what you're doing? How are those collaborations between the three of you?
Well, vocal, a lot of times Peter's got a song already done, and Joseph and I just go to work the way we go to work.
Okay.
He said, "Well, let's do this, and we can stack this, and let's do an octave thing here." We got our tricks, we have stuff that we've done, and we work together so much that we just went ahead and did it. When we did most of the vocals on this record, it was in my garage at my old house in Sherman Oaks. And I had, I said, we need an engineer, so we brought Kenji Nakai in, who's one of the best, really best engineers going on. And he came in, and so he had a good eyeball on it. But it was anything but glamorous. Our actual producer was my dog Rocky. Let's put it that way. If there's any arguments, Rocky would settle them as to who's got the snack for Rocky. That's kind of what it came down to. And when so we spent maybe 3 weeks just going in and working every day, and we just have a ball. We're all so we're into life, and we've been in here for a while, that we're all so very easily distracted. And for some reason, Peter is really the guy that kind of puts both me and Joe into focus. It's like, hey, here's the project. This is what we're working on.
Yeah.
And we could be very busy going out buying something at the grocery store and going to
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I had a couple of songs that I thought these would be perfect for Bill and Joseph to sing. And so I brought them, and then when I was in LA, Bill just showed me Evermore that he and Randy just had written, and some other songs. So it kind of turned out like so naturally evolving into a whole record.
Yeah.
And I think, but I was the one actually pushing everyone to do this, as I had these songs that I was quite excited about from the beginning, like Carry On and Area and those songs. So I was actually really happy to have these amazing singers to do my songs there.
Yeah.
In a way, guys, it was kind of like, well, we're just guesting on Peter's album, which we did for a couple albums in a row, and then Peter and Joe did an album together. And Peter finally says, hey, you guys are on all of my records. Why don't we just call it CWF? Because we toured together.
Right.
And we all got along so well. So we were like screaming, and Tamara was in there with us. And it was just like, yeah, we got voices. We got, before we went over for the tour in the last round, Tamara and Joe and I were in the garage, for about, almost a week, just really locking the vocals down tighter than a drum. He said, no matter what happens, if you got your vocals together, you gotta show.
Yeah.
And Joe's also good. Both of us are good at singing lead, and both of us are very good at singing background. So, and you walk in the studio, you put on a set of cans, it's the same thing.
Right.
Backgrounds are a lot of times harder than singing lead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Totally do, yeah. Let's talk about the music a little bit. We know that you guys are very much multi-instrumentalists in your own right, and we know that you did have some collaborators, Per and Johan and Ingmar and some other people. But how did you split, the musical chores on this recording? Bill, did you ever play instruments here, or Peter? How did you split up the musical duties, if by chance? And also, did you ever get the luxury of tracking together in the same studio ever, or was this all remote?
Mostly overdubbed for vocals, and I had a Hammond C3 and a Leslie sitting in my studio. So Peter looked at it and went, "Okay, do that."
Yeah.
So we threw some organ on some of this stuff. When you're doing albums in California and Stockholm, or wherever you're working in Sweden. Mm-hmm. it's kind of hard to everybody get in the studio at the same time. Eventually, you know, it's just budget won't allow that, you know. Yeah. And somebody says, "What budget?"
Exactly.
Just the terms, by the seat of your pants, strike a familiar note to everybody in the building, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Bill, you and Joseph create some really nice, you know, harmonies throughout this whole project. On, for instance, like on "Still Around," which is a beautiful ballad, "Runaway." You mentioned "Evermore," and on a lot of the tracks, you know, you also double the voices, sometimes one octave over the other to add some depth. You know, we also really love how the vocals came to the forefront. Peter, this is for you. You know, in regarding your mix and the recording of the, you know, you really brought the vocals nicely forward. Tell us about your intentionality of doing that and how the recording and was mixed down.
Well, actually, when we mix the record, we are always. I'm always trying to focus on the vocals to bring that up in front, because I think that's what makes the song. And of course, the drums needs to groove as well. That drums and vocals are the main ingredients. But also on this one, I think when we mastered it, it got a little bit. Sometimes the vocals were a little bit too high, so we did a second and a third mastering of this album, you know, to just adjust every level there, and I think we got it pretty good in the end. But we had some arguments about that one. So not me and the mastering engineers. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know, the track Aria is just a gorgeous tune, and don't shoot me for making a comparison, but when I hear that track, it kind of harkens back, to me anyway, to like Toto's The Seventh One. It kind of has that sort of feel, that sort of period to it. And, you know, another thing I really love, Peter, is that acoustic guitar work at the end of the track. And, you know, this is a track that, of course, features Steve Porcaro. But so tell me a little bit how this track came together.
Well, I wrote this kind of a long time back, a long time ago. It was like back in 2008 or 2009 with another great writer called John Ville and me wrote it together. And the thing we had with it was that it was kind of a Africa kind of groove to the whole song. Mm-hmm. And also maybe when the drums came on, it was more similar to the "Stop Loving You" groove actually, but somewhere in between there. And it's very much Toto, I think, and it has that kind of feel. And when we were kind of producing it up, we said that, we can't fade this track as we've done with all of the other tracks. So Ingmar actually suggested, Peter, why don't you bring up the acoustic guitar there and play something, you know, because you don't play that much acoustic guitar on the rest of the record. So that's how it came up actually. And that one and Evermore is the only acoustic guitar playing I do on the record actually. Mm-hmm.
That was a perfect track to include an acoustic guitar. It fit really nicely.
It was very nice.
Thanks.
You know, and you mentioned Evermore. Bill, you just told us right now that you wrote that with Randy, and you and Bill, you and Joseph do the vocals. But it is such a beautiful tune. The chord progressions really get me. I mean, I listened to this over and over, and I noticed that almost at 2 minutes into the song, I just love the vocals and the arrangement, the chord progressions. I mean, they're just pure you and Randy all over this. In fact, I even noticed almost like a vintage sound, Peter, that it reminds me of the good old whistle patch. It's like a CZ101 back a long time ago that Quincy Jones used to use, the little whistle. Everything about this was packaged so beautifully, but especially
Will played a lot on that one. Actually, he put the original thing together.
Did he really?
Yeah, Will was actually the guy. I think the bass is his. Did you keep the bass from Will, or did you replace?
No, we kept his programming and bass and stuff like that, and then the whistle thing was Jonathan Friestedt, and I just heard that in my head. It would be so cool with the sinus tone going there on that song, you know, like the R&B kind of vibe. So
it worked out great.
Awesome.
It was masterful.
And then I added some acoustics, you know, like nylon string things that felt. And of course, when Bill sings a song like that, it to me it's almost like an El Giro song.
Matter of fact, it's been sitting on Al's desk for 4 years.
What, is that true?
Yeah, he loved the song. He wanted to, but I don't think his record company wanted to do anything but a real jazz record.
Okay,
quote, big jazz record. So, and he hasn't really gotten around to doing a record anyway. It's been 3 or 4 years. Al's just starting to kick in lately, and he's just had I think some surgery, back surgery. Really? It's just a lot of distractions. But he's actually back out on the road quite a bit lately, and he's doing well. I heard a thing, and Tom Saviano had him sing on it. I'd done the demo of it, and Tom had him sing on it. And oh man,
wow. Beautiful.
That's why they call him Al Jarreau. He's awesome.
No doubt.
That guy's bad to the bone. Yeah. And always has been.
He's been a guest on our show, and not only is he an incredible musician, but he's the sweetest guy you'd ever want to know. He's so nice.
Always has been. It's just had, he's just had he's had some physical problems. I think he's had a real bad back situation going on for the last maybe 5 years. So that's kind of slowed him down a little bit. But man, it hasn't changed. He gets on a microphone and good night, Gracie, man. He's just that's Al Jarreau. My God,
no doubt.
It's a one of a kind, man. There's nobody does it quite like he does it.
Well, hey guys, let's take a break, and I want to play a track from the new CWF album that features, of course, Peter, Bill, and Toto vocalist Joseph Williams, and this is a track called Aria.
The music of your name brings a tear. My world is not the same place without my aria. Western sky, I'm taking all I've got left inside, starting from scratch. Aria, without your melody around me. Leave me on reason and rhyme. With a heart that's in pieces, love will survive. I'm ready to face a goodbye. Still I can't give up. Aria, she sings on. Watch you disappear from my life. Time to move on. Tumble down. A river full of tears keep falling. Baby, on reason and rhyme. With a heart that's in pieces, still love survives. 5,000 miles left to drive. And deserts to start a new life. I'm ready to face your goodbye. Still I can't give up.
Well, hey, Peter, a moment ago, you kind of mentioned your rhythm section. You had, like you said, we had Per Lindvall on drums and Johan Granström, if I'm pronouncing that right, on bass, and Ingmar Åberg on piano and keyboards. And these guys are a really talented, tight group. And I was curious. Tell us a little bit about these guys. I know a lot about Per, but the other two I'm not as familiar with. And tell us what they brought to the project, and tell me a little bit about your relationship, how you know these guys.
Well, Johan and I have been doing a lot of live gigs together, and I think, Bill worked with Johan also on last time we played Fashion. Johan was playing bass there as well, and he's a fantastic bass player, and he does a lot of TV stuff in Sweden, like gigs for different TV shows and stuff like that, and he's a very, very, good reader and good player, and everything like that. So he's a great friend of mine. So he was the first choice for me to when we hired a bass guy there. So him and Per just locked it together really well there. And Ingmar and I kind of worked on the guitars and the pianos together. We were in his studio and in my studio also, and doing some stuff there and. So we kind of produced it up together a little bit there, and then I took some of the songs I took to my studio and did all of the work here at my place. But it was a lot of fun working with these guys. That are very talented. It's always a treat. So.
That's really cool. And then I also noticed some other familiar names in the credits, such as the amazing Lars Erik Dahl on bass on the track Carry On. And actually the date that we're recording this interview today is Lars' birthday. So happy birthday.
It is.
Yeah.
Lars.
Happy birthday, Lars.
Lars, happy birthday. Wow.
And then
That's not a birthday. That's an anniversary of his 29th birthday.
That's right. And then some other people on the album, Stefan Gunnarsson on piano and keys on Nightfly, and Bill, you pretty much had the whole fam damily on the you had Tamara.
Everybody but Rocky, and but Rocky was producing.
That's right. But Tamara was on this, and of course you mentioned your son Will a second ago. So a lot of
all over this, man. He wrote half of two of the songs.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd played Two Hearts at War for Joseph, and he was in tears. He says, "Oh my God, why aren't we cutting this?" I said, "Well, I think we can. I don't think Will wants to use it for anything." So I asked Will and Mark if it was cool with them. Mark Beeson, who's a great songwriter. Uh-huh. Will and Mark, I was from Nashville. Will and Mark, when we lived in Nashville, Will and Mark were writing stuff together. Every song was just to die for. Yeah. Awesome songwriting. And Mark's just got, check the lyrics on Two Hearts at War. They're as good as anybody's anywhere.
That's a great
He's
track.
A good lyricist. A really sweet guy, too. Good musician, good singer. But Will said, sure, man. So I sent the track over. But the track was it was actually already mixed, and somebody had all these buses and all this other stuff going on. So I think once you got it to Ingmar or whoever you were working with, Peter, I'm sure you had to let's break this down to the basic instruments. Will on that, it was just one of Will's better songs, and we went for it.
Yeah, it's a great tune.
I just got chills when I heard you guys' vocals on it too. It was just fantastic what Joseph and Bill did there on the vocal parts. And of course there was a whole mix in the session that I got sent to my studio there. So we had to figure out how to get rid of half of the files there.
I didn't know what was what, and everything was automated. It was hey, this thing's just so. And I know James is the guy who mixed it, and James is a great mixer. But it was just God, all the bussing and craziness going out to bussing out to pieces of gear that none of us have.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, Bill, I've got a question. Rivers of Fear. Did Will contribute to that project, that song?
Will came in with he came in. This was about 2 weeks after 9/11, and he said, "What do you think of this?" And he started playing this thing, and a little bit of it was going on, and I had just had, I was on the road when that happened, and 3 months before we were hanging out with, Chicago had done a a benefit for somebody, and we had pictures with these guys, and they gave us all their T-shirts, and we put them in. And then after we got home from that tour, that was the end of, like about a week after 9/11, that tour was over. The summer tour was over. Yeah. And I realized that all the people that we were sitting there taking pictures with were Cantor Fitzgerald. That was the office that the plane landed in.
Wow.
And I was just devastated because so far up to that point I didn't know anybody that it affected. And then all of a sudden I was going, all these people. Well, it was like these people were working their butts off for this, for City of Hope, I think it was, something like that. And, they didn't deserve it. Nobody deserved that. That was just baloney. So Will started writing a song, and he says, I just need help with this. And he played me the stuff. So I just said, I'm jumping in. I'm getting in on this. Yeah. So it's if you listen to the lyrics on that, it's really about 9/11 more than anything else.
Interesting.
It's beautiful.
So I just, and then I went, and it just sat there, and I just kept saying, well, this is a great song. Well, what are you going to do with it? He says, I'm working on something new. So it was just sitting in the playlist. I said, so I played it for Joseph, and once he started crying, and we just went, oh man, this is the one we're going to work on. Yeah. So I put together a little road, added I rearranged a lot of stuff, all those rivers of fear, all the beginning things, all those chord changes. So I kind of did some rearrangement on it from the level, the chords that Will had, and then me and Joe just went to work. It took about 2 days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you talked a little bit ago, Bill, about, and I don't know if this is in particular the track you were working on, but this one must have taken some time because in order to get the vocals tight, because like you said, there's some interesting chord changes in this one, and it's just so tight. It's so beautiful. You guys just nailed the vocals. You put a pair of headphones on and listen to this, and you really, I don't know, you feel like you're there. The recording is great. The vocals are just completely surrounding you. It's a beautiful piece.
Once I got a little shaker track, just a little, a little shaker, and a real, not real kind of dark Fender Rhodes, so that we had something to play over, to sing over. We cut that in 2 days.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, Joe is fast. You know, if even on certain things, and there were certain points where I went ahead and just, if Joe wasn't there, I was doing something else. I just stacked them myself at certain spots. Yeah. Like there's a bit between right between the first chorus and the second verse I just pretty much did that all myself.
Wow. It's beautiful. It really is. It's beautiful.
And there were other places where Joe did it all by himself. It's like, this would be best if you stack this all yourself. And then Will's in there too. Will sings the bridge and some fills and stuff on the end. Mm-hmm. It was his song to start with. Originally his song, as was Hearts at War, that I wanted to make sure that Will was involved in it. And he's a piece of work. He's the best musician in the building. He's without a doubt the most trained. I mean, he's a Berkeley grad. He's full tilt. I mean, you see the voice and you see a kid singing and all that's great, but that's the tip of the iceberg with him.
It sure is.
Yeah. I remember several years ago when we talked to you for the first time, Bill, you mentioned that. You said, you and I don't know what you were working on at the time, but you and Tamara and Will were collaborating on something, and you said, he's the best musician in the house.
No question about it. People say, "Wow, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree." Listen, he probably learned more from people that I work with than he ever did from me. You know what I mean? And as far as getting on a piano or even a guitar, for that matter, he plays circles around me. I mean, he's just a really, really adept musician. And it's really great to have, when I need, and also he's a great Pro Tools guy. I mean, he's got all his stuff down. It's just ridiculous.
He's got all the chops.
He's like, hey man, you're going to go on the road? Yeah. Well, your chop is up.
Get your chop up,
And it was great to have him involved, as getting Tamara in there. Sure. There were a few places, like a Night Flight on the top end, and I just went, at some point we stack, Joe and I can stack as much as we can stack, but after a while it just starts to sound the same. So throwing another set of pipes in there occasionally just gives it another color, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. She did a fantastic work on
my house. We've got singers. There's some singers around there.
There are, sure.
Well, hey guys, let's take another break and let's check out another track from the CWF album, and this is the track Hearts at War. From our guests today, Peter Friestedt and Bill Champlin on Inside MusiCast.
Back to back, worlds apart, in this endless fight where nobody's won so far, on different sides of this battlefield. We'll cross the line, will we be casualties of our own friendly fire? And we're two hearts at war, can't remember what we're fighting for, separated by nothing more than a bedroom door. Feels like a million miles between us, and the words become just like bullets from a smoking gun. Take them back before the damage is done, as someone runs. And love dies in the dark, two hearts at war. We can hide down in the trenches, we can rise up now and lower our defenses. Love again, 'cause there's nothing worse than loneliness. In the end, no one surrenders. It goes on and on and on and on and on. We're two hearts at war, we can't remember what we're fighting for, separated by nothing more than a bedroom door. Feels like a million miles between us, and the words become just like bullets from a smoking gun. Let's take them back before the damage is done, and someone runs. And love dies in the dark, two hearts at war. We're two hearts at war, who can't remember what they're fighting for, separated by nothing more than a bedroom door. Feels like a million miles between us, and the words become just like bullets from a smoking gun. Bring them back before the damage is done. Someone runs, and love dies in the dark. Two hearts at war. Can't remember what we're fighting for, separated by nothing more than a bedroom door. Feels like a million miles between us, and the words become just like bullets from a smoking gun. Take them back before the damage is done, someone runs. Two hearts at war.
So, Peter, let's focus on you for a moment. And, I absolutely love that story about you had just finished college. I think you won some major jazz competition. And with all that confidence, you borrowed your dad's or a friend's car, I guess, and you drove to Bill's house and handed him your demo cassette. And I have to ask, just knowing those small pieces of that puzzle, did Bill even know you were coming, or was this completely unexpected? You just walked up. What was the story behind that?
I think I had an email address to Bill that I used and sent him like, hey, I'm writing songs and I'm from Sweden and I have a cassette tape that I'm bringing to your house, and for some reason he let me in, I don't know why, but anyway, I showed him some tracks and I think it was kind of helpful that Andreas Karlsson had been there a couple of weeks earlier or something like that, working a lot with Bill and writing songs and stuff. But so Swedes were welcome in Bill's house, I guess. So I was actually doing my first ever recording in the studio, and I had this fantastic teacher, luxury of having the Jello Jackets playing with me there, and I just asked Bill, would you be interested in doing something with us, and that's how it happened, actually.
That's cool.
And it was amazing.
So when you showed up on Bill's doorstep, he wasn't standing there in his robe and a shotgun saying, "What are you doing?"
Get out of my lawn!
You kids, you crazy kids.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, I wasn't quite at the age where those four words defined my life, and those four words being "get off my lawn."
Hey, Bill, talking about that demo, what was your first impression when you heard that demo?
Well, I mean, it was enough of a demo to write, and I went, "Hey, this is kind of cool." I don't even remember what the song was, and I needed
"Living in the Rise" was the song, I think.
Yeah, and I needed lyrics for it, so I mean, I just sort of sat down and I figured we'd go in and cut the vocal, like the next Wednesday. So I kind of had to do it quick, so I knocked it off. We got in and we knocked off we did the song, and then actually the drummer was kind of almost producing the session. I said, well, let me stack some backgrounds. So the band took a break while I stacked up some backgrounds on the song. And then I said, well, I guess I'm done, man. It's nice to hang with you. I mean, my favorite piano player in the world was there, Russ Ferrante. He's such a sweetie pie. And I'd done some sessions with Jimmy before, and Mark was good. I mean, it was all swinging. Or Jeff, I'm sorry, Jeff Richmond.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, at some point in the game, I was about ready to leave, and Peter says, "Hey, you want to write this other one that we're cutting?" And I listened to this. I think it was a shuffle. What was the song?
Yeah, it was
real fast shuffle of some kind.
"Time to Play." Yeah, was the name of the song.
Then
It didn't have a name when we recorded it.
We were in there, they were just starting to do it, and I just went, "Yeah, I'll write it." So I figured, well, I'd come in and overdub it another time. I listened to him playing down the track. I just didn't leave for a while. And I just pulled out a sheet of paper and wrote the lyrics on the spot. I said, "Guys, let's just cut it." About the time it takes to play the song, you know what I mean? It was one of those.
Yeah, I
seemed
try to be a little more prepared these days when I do a record,
Just a little.
Well, it was cool. I remember they were trying to talk you into playing a solo on it, and you were like, I think they had a pod or something like that, and you were like, "Well, nah, I don't want to really." And Jeff was saying,
shy.
"Oh." It was great, and you threw on a pretty cool solo on something. Everybody was digging it. That was a mission for me. I love that. That was such a gas.
Well, these songs that you initially wrote together, were these the ones that ultimately became the material for the LA project back in 2002? Do I have that right?
Yes, correct. That
Okay.
was the first that eventually became an album, like a couple of years later. And then it went really well, in Sweden, and BMG picked it up and released it all over Europe. So that was fantastic, actually, how that record took a long journey after we recorded it, long time after that. Mm-hmm. And it was the very first recordings I ever did in a studio, and I was kind of young and having a strong belief in what I did, and I'm really happy for that now that I did it like that, because it opened a lot of doors for me So these days I'm very thankful for whatever went on with that first recording there.
Yeah, sure. Hey, so Peter, for those in our audience who aren't quite as familiar with you as we are and your music, so tell us a little bit about your path to music, your influences and the people or music that you admired, as you started your career, made your way towards a career.
Oh, yeah, it's a long journey, actually. I studied a lot of jazz in Sweden, a lot of older kind of music, I listened to Wes Montgomery and George Benson and those kind of players. And then when I came to LA, I started to listen back to my favorite players from my youth, like Larry Carlton and Steve Lukather and guys like that. And they are still my favorite players, actually. I really enjoy listening to these guys. Mm-hmm. And for music in general, I think I have a wide range of music I like, but still to these days, what you listen to when you're a teenager, like 14, 15 years old, you keep listening to that your whole life, I think. And Toto was a big influence of me during that period, and also I was listening to Pages and all those great bands, from LA that were happening.
Sure.
So I think, and all the fusion stuff, I love the fusion things, like I dug the Chick Corea stuff and things like that. So it was a treat to sit down one-on-one with Frank Gambale, at Lama there, and have him teaching you stuff like that. That was really cool.
Sure.
Oh, that leads right into my next question, because I know that you studied music at various music conservatories in Sweden, but you, like you said, you eventually landed in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Music Academy, Lama, and studied with Frank Gambale and guys like Bill Fowler. And tell us about how these guys, what did you take away from the time that you spent with those guys? Is that easy to pinpoint?
I would say that when I came there, I was quite a jazz guitar player, and I was really into the older kind of jazz music, with the clean, dark sound on the 335 guitar that I played during that period. But spending a year or two in LA, makes you want to get into this scene with the big pedal boards and sounds and stuff like that. So I learned a lot about getting the sound together, and I learned a lot about getting the more contemporary approach to guitar playing again. I just got back to that, and I think ever since then I became more and more into playing contemporary music again. I think I left the jazz in LA somewhere. That's really I made quite the turn there in musically when I stayed in LA. I think,
yeah. Peter, we've interviewed several, actually, Scandinavian musicians, Uli Borod, State Cows, Andreas Aleman, and Work of Art. And these guys, they've all captured that special, the West Coast vibe. And I'm sure Bill's well aware of that infectious, disease called West Coast that Scandinavians got. But you're no exception, Peter. And so tell me how your love for this genre developed, and how important it was for your music to have this kind of sound.
Well, as I said earlier, it's really something that I dug really much when I was a teenager, like 14, 15 years old. And it really got stuck because I started to even collect records like that. I think Mikael Engström can tell you about this guy as well. There's a guy in Sweden who had auctions, where you could buy like Bill Champlin's first record for $200, and stuff like that. And I started to listen to his, all the advices he had in his catalog there, so that was kind of how I became a really. I really appreciated that kind of music for a long time, and I still love it. It's very close to my heart.
Well, in regard to that West Coast sound, how particular are you, when it comes to instrumentation and gear, not only for yourself, but the other musicians you bring to your projects? Is that a concern of yours, or is it just kind of naturally happen?
I think that I'm not that, fundamental about it. Like some guys, that it has to sound like those kind of records, and it can't be too modern. I think that good music is good music, no matter if it's jazz or if it's heavy metal or whatever. Good music is always good music, and I really hope that our record and the records that I make are a melting pot of different kind of musics, or genres, that I love. So I personally get a little bored with just listening to one kind of music, one style, and for that reason, I really think that I love records when there's a lot of different kind of styles on the same record,
Yeah. We really wish that Joseph could have been, joined in on the interview, but he's currently out with Toto right now. So, Peter, tell me about your relationship with Joseph, such as how you met and when did you meet for the first time, and how long did it take before you guys really got that incredible chemistry that you guys now have?
Well, we met at Bill's house for first time. At the recording for a song that ended up on my first record.
Okay.
And I think Bill called Joseph to ask if he could sing on it. And Joseph says that it's probably because Bill didn't want to sing it, So I'm just kidding. Anyway, so we kept in touch for a couple of years, and then Joe was also on the second album that I did, and after that I visited his house, in LA, like in 2008 or 9 or something. And after that, we started to doing live shows in Scandinavia every year, and we've been doing that for 5 or 6 years now. And of course, he's busy with Toto now, and he's doing really great with the fantastic job with the new record they did, and he's singing better than and I think he's singing fantastic, So it's just I'm just happy for Joe's career there. It's going so good for him right now.
He does. You're right. He does. He sounds better than ever right now.
He does.
He's just fantastic.
Yeah.
With Joseph, if only he had a sense of humor.
I'm pretty happy that Joe is
the funniest guy on the earth.
When you get Bill and Joe together, you don't get a decent word out of them.
What could be worse is if you throw Luke in there too.
Yeah.
Sick City.
Hey, Bill. I saw a photo on Facebook last night that Tamara had posted with you, with Tamara, of course, and with Kelly Kagi of Night Ranger, and of course your dog Rocky. And I just wondered what you're working on with Kelly. Can you talk about it, or?
Kelly's a mutual friend, Tucker Williamson, said, "Hey, man, maybe you and Kelly." Tucker was talking about what the plans were for Kelly. Uh-huh. And I said, he's one of my favorite singers. We worked together on one song with David Foster, "Secret of My Success" movie.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
And David would regularly bring me in as a ringer with some of the bands that he was working with. Uh-huh. He had me in singing with the Tubes. It was funny. He says, "Hey guys, I want to bring in a local guy to sing with you guys in the Tubes." We don't want some slick ass jingle singer. He says, "How about Bill Champlin?" And the Tubes guy said, "Oh, he's one of us. Yeah, cool." At the time, I was probably the slickest singer in town, but they didn't have to know that. "Oh, he's a Bay Area guy. Sure, let's bring him on in." He had a ball doing it. So he brought me in with Night Ranger for that one song on the record, and it was like singing with Kelly, and then Kelly and I have a really good mutual friend, Bruce Geich.
Yeah, we know Bruce.
And I know Bruce was talking about, well, Kelly's looking to do some stuff, and I finally just told Tucker, I says, well, find out if Kelly, I think the best thing that could happen is for Kelly to just, pop down here, when he gets a minute, just have him come over and stay here for 3 days, and we'll just sit in front of the machine and come up with some stuff. So I sent him some stuff that I thought he'd sound good on. Uh-huh. And then actually 2-3 days ago, we were just sitting there having coffee, and he played me this, what Bruce likes to call a kernel, a little thing of just a Bruce on a guitar, and Kelly singing melodies with just a doo-doo-da-da thing. And Tamara was jumping on it. Tamara's a major league writer. She's just said, "Oh, we can do this. We'll knock this up." So we wrote the piece and just did it. And I just brought a copy in here and played it for the people here in the studio. And everybody went, "Oh my God, this is great." So we're just working on some material for Kelly. He'll probably get an album out of it at some point in the game.
Cool.
I think he did a couple of solo albums on Frontiers, but I think he wants to not necessarily do the kind of record that Night Ranger would do. He wants to come up with a little, and he's a really good singer. Kelly is a world-class lead singer. He's great. So, and he's a gas. We're good friends. So it just, a friend of mine actually in this building that I'm sitting in right now told me years ago, he says the best records are made by a few good people.
That's very true.
They're enjoying what they do and having fun with it. And, they said the first thing that goes to tape is who you are and how you feel. Then you have time and intonation. But what's really hitting tape first is how you feel. That's what I love about working with Peter. It's what I love about working with all the stuff I'm doing is we're putting stuff on tape that tries to touch people.
Yeah.
Rather than tries to impress people with how damn perfect we are.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to recut it if it's out of tune. I'm going to recut it if it's out of tune. But I'm not going to tune it very much. I'm not a real auto-tune fan,
Yeah. Well, speaking about the joy and the happiness of what you're involved in right now, we have a question, Bill, from Brian Pearson, who's our Chicago area correspondent. And he asked a question to you, and this is for you. And he's curious. He says, Bill, tell us your thoughts about life after Chicago through social media and a wide variety of projects that you've been involved in, of course, with Peter also and other things. It's pretty easy to tell that you seem really happy right now and you're enjoying what you're doing with your music. Is this a fair assessment?
I think he's probably right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two ways of walking in a studio. And, you can walk into a studio and everybody's going, we got to have a hit. We got to have a hit.
Yeah.
We got to have a hit. And then and that's very rarely a hit. And then you walk into the studio and everybody's, hey, man, how's it going? What's up? Hey, wow, how's everything happening? Listen to this music. This is knocking me out. I mean, play it loud. We're grooving on it. And I didn't get that in the last gig I had, and I do now. And then right there is probably the most simple way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Thank you.
And, I don't want to go in there and stand at attention until it's my turn to go to the microphone. It's just not the way, I'm sorry. It's just, I'm just not, I don't dig working like that. This is, this is not, music is supposed to be totally joyful. And if it isn't, I don't want to be around it.
Yeah.
I mean, financially, I'm in no kind of shape like I was when I was with that band. But within 2 weeks of being out of that band, I was way happier.
Yeah.
I was broker, but I was way happier. And so, and that's really the thing. It was I hung on for the money for a long, long time, and finally they became kind of aware that hey, there's somebody on the stage that doesn't want to do this. And, we parted ways in that way, and it wasn't really fun, but it caught me by surprise. It caught everybody by surprise. But I just kind of, within 2 weeks, I was sleeping like a baby, and I was like, wow, I'm a lot happier. I wasn't shaken. I mean, I thought I was, for the last maybe 10 years, I was in that, at least 5 years I was in that band, I thought I was hiding Parkinson's. My hands were shaking the whole time I was there. And it was just, I was in the wrong place, like the old Carlos Castaneda books. I wasn't in the right place on the porch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I am now. I mean, I work with my wife all the time, and people go, oh, wow, yeah, right, everybody does that. No, she is great.
Yeah.
She is absolutely a monstrous songwriter. She writes the, if you want a lyric that makes it seem like there's fog in the room, you go to Tamara, and suddenly there's fog in the room. I mean, she's just such a great songwriter and one butt-kicking singer. So, I mean, come on.
Of course.
And, we were, by the time I was done with Chicago, we'd been married around 30 years. And we probably spent 15 of it together because I was on the road so much. I mean, those guys they never get off the road. They never stop.
Yeah.
And I don't just, come on. What about new music? Well, nobody wants to hear new music. Well, I do.
Yeah.
So and I just kind of went, this is all just kind of stupid. It just became, let's put it this way, it just became silly. It just, I hate to say it's like it was, I could say it was violent and it was this and it was, it was just silly. It just got silly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's enough.
You just mentioned Tamara, though, again, and she recently, I really dig that single she just released, Dreamin' of Chagall, and in fact, I did a write-up and selected it as a recent Inside MusiCast pick of the day, and I'm assuming you were involved in that, right? Didn't you sing background vocals on that as well?
No, I produced it.
You produced it? Okay. All right.
I played all the guitars and all the keyboards. Well, Will did a little bit of keyboard, like an overdub on it later on.
Yeah.
But I did all the keys and all the guitars on it and got everything all up. And then we put Alan Hertz on drums.
Okay.
Alan's main drum gig is with Scott Henderson. He's a great jazz drummer.
Yep.
But he's a monstrous mixer and mastering engineer. I mean, he's got a little studio. I mean, I knew him when we had him replace Jim Preston when Jim passed away a couple of years ago with the Sons. So he played with the Sons. The next thing you knew, he moved down here 4 miles from my house, and he's got a studio. And I just went into his studio and had him mix Chagall, and it was so good. Tamara said, "I'm going to get this on iTunes. We can't leave this behind."
Yeah.
He's a great mixer, and he's a monstrous drummer. Just an absolute one of a kind, man. Just smoking hard.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of guy to say, "Well, if it's going to be jazz, let's go this way. If it's going to be rock, let's go this way." I mean, he's smart enough musically to know what makes different kinds of music tick. So, I mean, it's just a fine. He's part of the new team, the me and Tamara team. You know?
Hey, Bill, I've got one more question, and if my memory is accurate, the last solo album that you released was back in 2008, titled "No Place Left to Fall." And have you given any thought to producing another solo project anytime soon?
Well, a lot of people have been asking, like, I'm kind of worn that one out, and it's a really good album, and it's it's kind of held me up for a good little while. I just kind of when I do a record, I work like a dog on it, and I drop everything else, and I just do that, and and that one was done so great. It was just so cool. I don't want to do it any different than that. And I'm going, and why would I want to make an album? Why would anybody want to make an album right now? I mean, we could take a 45-minute run into the state of the music business right now. But
we've been there.
Yeah, we've been there, done that.
Plenty of music out there, but there's this kind of that thing of like, and if you got iTunes, people just buy one song. Very rarely do people download a whole album.
Yeah, you're true.
And I make albums, so I mean, I've kind of, and I haven't hardly even sung lead on anything. I just lately I've sung a couple things on lead, and I've just gone, oh, wait a minute, that sounds pretty good. I can kind of do this.
Yeah.
So, believe me, I'm thinking about it just for the sake of doing it, just for the music, but. Where do you sell it? Who do who all of that whole that thing comes to play. Every time I think about doing a record, I'm going, oh, now what?
Well, guys, let's take one more break, and there's another track that Eddie and I want to play. It's a track called Nightfly. Nothing to do with Donald Fagen, but this is a track from our guests today, Peter Friestedt and Bill Champlin, and of course Toto vocalist Joseph Williams from the new album CWF on Inside MusiCast.
Something's happened. What is coming over me? Just that something is different, and it can't be bad. Didn't know what was happening. Lived my life by the plan. Couldn't say what I was feeling. Why this brand new path?
Well, Peter, before we say goodbye, Peter, can you tell me, let our audience know where you can purchase the new CWF album? And we know it's on iTunes, but can they? Where else can they get the CD or even the vinyl if that's going to be available?
I'm not sure it's going to be vinyl actually, but the CD is available pretty much on every Amazon retailer in the whole world now, and I think it's available through iTunes, as you said, and NEH Records in the US.
Great.
And for European fans, it's or friends, it's available everywhere. Mm-hmm. So we're just right now working on the Japan release, and Bill and Brandon Russell just wrote an amazing song that we're mixing right now. I just sent Bill an update on the mix tonight here, and it's such a cool song. It's like a turn your love around kind of vibe to it.
Cool.
That's going to make the album's going to be, it's a bonus track for the Japanese version, but the album's going to it's going to put a whole other side on the album. There's the one thing that isn't on here is just funky and jazzy at the same time. So it's kind of a cool thing. Not funky, but just grooving, deep pocket.
Yeah. Well, when you talk to Brenda, please, I've been corresponding with her, and tell her that Eddie and Rick really need to talk to her, get her on the show. We've been trying to get her on for the past couple years.
I've known Brenda for probably since I first moved to LA. I've just known her for years.
She's so good.
I've always been the giant fan of hers, but I finally, me and Brenda and Paul Paris, a drummer friend of mine, Paul actually put the date together, and we finally wrote something together, and it was like, what happened here? We did a duet together on a Tom Scott record. It was a single on GRP years ago. And the song was actually a song that Tamara and Bruce Geitch had written.
Look at that.
If You're Not the One for Me. It was a beautiful record, man. It was awesome.
It's a killer tune,
And Brenda just tore it up. And I just kind of, you know how you love people, but you kind of travel in different circles, and that's just the way it is, And I'd never actually worked with her. I mean, when we were writing it, we kind of left Paul in the dust. It's like, well, Paul, hang on. We got an idea here that's going to go somewhere. The song's called Lavender Moon, and it's just Brenda and I was just, we were just being as artistic as we could possibly be.
Yeah.
And I just sent basically the demo I sent to Peter, and he just said, well, he's going to probably fix it up a little bit. I mean, I would hope he would anyway. And but the thing groove, it's really, really infectious. It's just a great groove. It's probably the first thing I did when I went up to Pro Tools 11. I went, well, I'm going to try putting this song on it. And then we stacked up the vocals, and it's a cool thing. You're going to like it. And Brenda's great. She's actually, I just got a note from her a little while back. She's actually going to, they're going to put Color Purple back on Broadway, and she wrote all the music for it.
Oh, wow.
Very, very cool. Tell her hi for us.
Shall do.
Well, hey, Peter, Bill, thanks so much for all the time. I know, Peter, over there, it's after midnight, and Bill, you're just getting ready. You're probably getting ready for dinner soon, so we're all over the place here. It's
getting late enough where Peter's got to get his teeth in a jar and get to sleep.
Exactly.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, guys, thanks so much, and we'll keep in touch, and maybe we can do this again sometime.
Thank you, guys.
All righty.
All right, we'll see you later.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Special thanks to Peter Friestedt and Bill Champlin for joining us on this episode of Inside MusiCast. We'd also like to thank our correspondents, Kim Riley, Brian Pearson, Scott Gross, Mikhail Ingstrom, Loretta Sassaman, Scott Sheriff, Don Breidup, and Mats Uniline for their continued support and content development for Inside MusiCast. Inside MusiCast is powered by Cabello Associates and Earshot Audio Post. For information about becoming a sponsor and sharing your message with thousands of music fans around the world, please visit InsideMusicCast.com for contact information. For Eddie Cabello, I'm Rick Such. Thanks for listening to Inside MusiCast.
What has happened to this world? People fighting everywhere. Oh. Love so strong that once was there. Seemed like nobody cares. And we got to get back to the place in the stars that we got.